sixth former down here is videoing this, basically so I can show it to a very important person, and that will all become very clear during the assembly who that person is. So you know, don't be too distracted by them, just carry on, it's nothing to do with you. Okay. Right, when I decided to do this assembly, something jumped straight to my mind about what I wanted to do. There was a very important thing, two very important things happened this weekend. One of them which you will all probably have been involved with, which was Mother's Day. Mother's Day is very important. I'm really close to my mum. I love my mum to bits. And if there's anybody here who has shares Facebook with me, friends with me on Facebook, will know that my little profile picture is me and my mum, because we're very, very close. For you, it might be somebody else in your life that's very close. It might be your dad, you know, granddads, aunts, uncles. It might be friends in the family. For me, my mum is the person that I'm very, very close to in my family, who I look for support. The other thing that happened this weekend, I'm not going to tell you about at the moment. I'll come to that a little bit later on. Because I want you, first of all, before I start talking about my mum, is just have a little look at what I've put on the screen here and have a think about what I've put on the screen here first of all. Do you think that you have the same amount of intelligence that you were born with and it will be the same throughout your life? Or your intelligence can change throughout your life depending on what you do and what your attitude is about your life? Okay. Just think about that for a moment. I'm not going to talk about that at the moment. I'm going to come back to it a bit later on. Just have a little think about that. Do you think you are the sort of person who thinks your intelligence is set when you are born and you stay that way? Or do you think your intelligence can change as you grow older? Just think about that. I'll come back to it. Okay, so the very important person in my life. There's a picture of my mum, a couple of pictures of my mum when she was little with her older brother there. Now, as I say to you, my mum was very important to me, and it was Mother's Day this weekend, and obviously I sent her presents, but I didn't send her presents to say thank you for picking my dirty socks up off of my bedroom floor or making me tea at night, because obviously she doesn't do that for me anymore. But I still wanted to thank her for some very important things. Our parents, or for, as I say, it might be somebody else for you, my mum for me has helped me decide my values in life, my principles, the things that I believe in. And this is what I was thanking her for on Sunday, because that was what is important to me now. The things that she guides me through, the difficulties she guides me through, but also the principles that she has given me by the way she's lived her life. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her life. When she was very young, she sat an 11 plus exam. Some of you may know what an 11 plus exam is, a lot of you may not. Back in the day when she was about a little bit younger than you had to sit an 11 plus exam, and that would decide whether you went to grammar school or whether you went to secondary modern school. Now, grammar school was where you went if you wanted to be a teacher, doctor, lawyer, one of those professional occupations. If you were going to be like a mechanic or a hairdresser, those sorts of things, then you would go to secondary modern. Now, she didn't have anything against that. Her mum was a hairdresser and her dad was a bus driver, but she still felt that she wanted to do something better than that. Unfortunately, she failed her 11 plus and went to secondary modern school. Now, while she was at secondary modern school, as I say, my mum had certain principles, and she was stuck by those principles that she's influenced me with. And on the left there, it's a picture of her on the far left there. She was staying at a holiday place that was with school, with her friends, and one of the things that she did, she was only there for a week, and she got a group of them together to go and complain about the standard of bedding and the dirty plates and crockery and stuff like that, because she's the sort of person who, if she's not happy about something, she'll say it. She won't sit back and accept it and keep quiet. She'll go and tell somebody if she's not happy and get things changed. The picture on the right there I have to put in just because I think it's a little bit amusing. If you've managed to read what it says on the bottom, she went on this holiday with school to Switzerland. When she came back, she presented the head teacher with an 18-inch cigar, which I think is hilarious, because just imagine some of you coming back off a school trip and going, Mr. Ferguson's saying, there you go, thanks, there's an 18-inch cigar. You know, times have changed a bit, haven't they? Anyway, so she was at secondary modern, and when she did what they called O-levels then, it's the equivalent to what you would do at GCSEs now. When she did her O-levels, she passed 2 of them. Not only did she only pass 2 of them, they were in art and cookery, so she didn't even sort of get maths or English or anything like that, or sciences. She just got cookery and art. So what was she going to do? Well, she wasn't happy with that and felt that she could do better. So she then enrolled at night school, and she sat all her exams at night school. Now that's hard work. It's a lot harder than being at school. You know, at school, if you're struggling a little bit, there's always somebody to help you. If you go and do it at night school, you're on your own. Nobody gives you support if you're struggling. It's like, there you go, you've just got to get on with it. Okay, so she did her exams at night school. She went to art college, and then she took time out because she had me and my sisters. Then after that, she went and she did a teaching certificate. Okay. Now a teaching certificate, I need to explain this to you because a teaching certificate is what they used to do in the old days when you wanted to become a teacher. All of your teachers in here will all have degrees. They went to university. And my mum didn't go to university because she didn't have to in them days, you just needed to get a teaching certificate. But things soon changed and people needed degrees, and she always felt like she missed out because she didn't go to university, she didn't get a degree. So, you know, new people coming into teaching jobs and they were all better qualified than her, and she always felt like she missed out of it. So from the moment she started teaching, she had this aspiration, I want to have a degree. Okay, so she had that in her mind. So this is when she's at her first teaching job over on the right there, lovely hairstyle there. You might guess around about roughly the year by this hairstyle. Up on the top left there is where my mum was head of what they called a PTA, Parent Teachers Association. And she's, it's a commemorative tree, I can't remember what it's to commemorate, but she was at the head of the Parent Teachers Association. And one of the things she did while she was that head of the PTA was she fought to protect sixth forms. Now you're very lucky, you got a sixth form within Earlham and Cadishead College. I had one at school, but they were trying to get rid of them. So she ran a campaign to prevent this happening, and she was in the local news, you know, on the newspapers, on the radio and everything. And you know, she, again, this was about her principles. She thought it was wrong to take sixth forms away, so she would stand up for her principles, however difficult that might be. She was also heavily involved in pushing the arts as well, and she spent a little bit of time working with this guy down here, Ken Robinson, on an arts and schools project. So she was travelling throughout the country, pushing arts education across the country. This guy's got very famous since then. It gets more hits, believe it or not, on YouTube than One Direction. So there you go, it must be pretty famous. Okay, so eventually she achieved one of her aspirations, which was, if I can change that, there you go, she became a head teacher of a primary school. When I was little, we used to go on these holidays to the countryside, and she'd see these lovely little primary schools out in the countryside, you know, with only about 30 kids in them, and she'd say, that's where I want to be a head teacher. So when she she got her first head teaching job in a little primary school, she was so pleased with herself, and we were all so pleased for her. That school that she taught at, first of all, it amalgamated with another one. She needed to look for another job, so she became head teacher of this one, and you might see the name there, Allington. In her last year at that school, she retired about 7 years ago. In the last year at that school, she had an Ofsted inspection. And kind of the icing on the cake for her there was the Ofsted inspector said to her, this school is so wonderful, I would love my child to be able to come here. So that was very, very special for her just before she retired. Anyway, so she retired a few years ago, but if you remember I said to you, she still had one aspiration that she had never achieved. You have to remember now she's 61 years old and thinking, I still want that degree. So, she started a course with something called the Open University, which some of you may have heard of. I studied with the Open University, it's absolutely fantastic. But again, it's hard work. You have to do all your work on your own in the evenings. I sit there on the computer till 11 o'clock at night, as my mum has done many, many days. You're by yourself, you haven't got somebody to turn to, you've got your computer maybe, a few books. You have to do all that studying by yourself. It's hard work. And it also takes you 6 years to get a degree. Earlier on, at the beginning of the assembly, I said there were 2 very special things that happened this weekend. One was Mother's Day. The other thing happened on the Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, and that was my mum graduated. Over on the left there, there's my mum, me, my sister's there. She's there in a gown because she graduated, and it was an absolutely wonderful moment. We were so unbelievably proud of her. I mean, you know, Harrogate ran out of Kleenex tissues because we're all like dabbing our eyes all the time.
Brandon Stewart and Rachel Broadhurst to reception. Brandon Stewart and Rachel Broadhurst to reception. Thank you.
Okay, so I want you just to think about this, because I told you early on she came out of school with 2 O-levels, and at the age of 67 she finally achieved her aspirations to get a degree. Not only did she get a degree, she got a first-class honours degree, which all of your teachers here will tell you is the best possible sort of degree that you can get. First-class honours degree, the top level. And she got that through all that hard work, but it took till she was 67 to achieve that. Okay? Sometimes I think children think that, you know, it doesn't matter. If you haven't done it early in life, what's the point? You can never stop learning, and you can never stop achieving. So, at the beginning, I put that question to you. Now, what do you think now? Do you think that you've got the same amount of intelligence as you start your life off? Or do you think that changes throughout your life? Do you think you can make it better? Because I do genuinely believe you can do, because of the principles and the beliefs that my mum gave to me. When you have you know, when you have a difficult day and you're struggling, you're saying, oh, this piece of work isn't happening for me, I'm rubbish at it. And I'm saying, no, you're not, you can do it. I believe that genuinely, because I know, I have had the example set to me by my mum. So I hope the thing that you take away from this assembly today is to know that whatever you want to achieve in life, you have an example there. You can achieve it. I believe it, and I want you to believe it. Thank you.